All right, it's the day after the night before, here with the great ring announcer, Stephen Peios. Steve, what a week, what a night. Tim Tszyu, a dominant clinical performance and a great win.
Yeah, Macca, the morning after the night before, as they say, mate. Look, it's a good feeling today, I think, for everybody that's involved, in the camp with Tim Tszyu. I think it was a very nervous fight week. I think you were saying yourself that you were very nervous for a good part of the fight week. Some of your stories, we should interview you for your own channel about how nervous you were on the day and some of the reactions from yourself and the rest of the media that were involved, because it was certainly a great win for Tim, but it was one that was, I think he said it himself in the press conference afterwards, that it was definitely a case of if it was win or bust, right? I think everybody realised it was win or bust. So for him, he knew that he had to perform really well, and I thought he was extremely clinical. I thought his performances were good. And this is the way that I likened the fight in terms of his performance. Round one was about 10%. I don't think, Tim almost looked like he didn't throw a punch, I think, in the first round. You were saying that, you probably scored the bout, 10-9 to Joey Spencer purely because he landed a couple of good shots and that was about it. Second round, 20% Tim, found a little bit of range and a little bit of footwork and got comfortable in there. You noticed that he got a little bit rough and rugged with Joey and there was none of that head effect that we saw versus Bakram Murtazaliev, where he was worried a little bit about that cut. And then from there, I felt like round three, he moved up to about 60%. And then round four, once he really, started to tag Joey Spencer, he moved up to about 95% and knocked him out in clinical fashion. So it was a surgical performance, something that he really needed. And the thing that I felt from ringside and in the ring was just a pure relief. So talking about what we were a moment ago, those nerves that you were saying, like you had and other members that were sort of associated. For me, I'm a little bit more on the outside, so I can take that in a little bit more and see how everybody feels and sort of, I guess, soak up that emotion and put that into the ring, into the announcing. But the pre-fight nerves you could see in ring during Tim's entrance during the actual introductions, the crowd, probably because they'd sort of been there for a few hours and got into it, really, really came with it. Like the announcing was just that they came with all of the energy. And I think a lot of that was that nervous energy. So the roar in the venue was like nothing I'd ever heard. I thought it was an incredible thing to be a part of and to enjoy. But then you could sense the relief. Like when the knockout came and then when, the decision was announced, we heard Tim speak afterwards and everybody that was associated was just really happy, those huge feelings of relief. Because I suspect that if it had have gone, 10, 11, 12, gone down to a scorecards, a close decision, then that would have been even more rattling. And it could have potentially asked questions about, where Tim Tszyu was up to, because if it had have gone to a close decision, then there might have been more questions. But a clinical knockout means that the path is a lot clearer moving forward. So overall, fantastic day, fantastic feeling inside Newcastle, and it was a fantastic day and night.
There had to be some pressure on Tim Tszyu. I mean,
plenty.
I asked him plenty of times. He said he didn't feel it, but he had to be feeling it, right?
I think so. I think when you're in the public eye as much as he's when it comes to Australian boxing, I think when you're when there's so much on you in terms of pressure on you in terms of your own future and your own career. He said it in the press conference afterwards when he said, I was watching it on your video afterwards, where he said, I woke up, or I can't remember the exact words, but it was either I woke up or I did question, what do I do next if I don't win? And I think that is extremely accurate. So there had to be pressure. And I think he's done a good job at moving that pressure away. I think he's become excellent now at dealing with all the media attention, whereas perhaps even 3-4 years ago, he wasn't quite as comfortable with that focus and attention. But now he's definitely much more understanding of that pressure that's on him. And it comes with the bigger guys as well. I mean, Opataya, I think he's under similar pressure being so good at the level that he's at. So when it comes to Tim, he was able to actually take it in and use that pressure to his advantage. So to answer your question, Macca, absolutely. I think the pressure was on him. He knew the pressure was on him, but he was able this time to actually perform the way he wanted to execute clinically, and he did that. So for me, I'm very happy. I think he did a fantastic job with that, and we have to give him credit there.
Where does he go from here? Obviously, there's talk of the Keith Thurman fight, but Sebastian Fundora rematch, that's always going to be there. Well, what do you think Tim Tszyu and the team at No Limit do from here?
Yeah, look, it's only 24 hours afterwards, Macca. I think it's a great question. What would I do? I'm not a boxer. I'm not a boxing promoter either. I guess I am a fan of all our boxers in Australia, world boxing, and a fan of being able to get in there and excite crowds. For me personally, I think it's a no-brainer. He needs to go for Fundora. That's just me. And again, we're all entitled to our opinions. But I feel like life is about opportunity. It's about seizing moments. We heard as well how potentially difficult we hear the weight cut was for Tim. So if the weight cut was hard for him getting down to 154, how long does he have at super welterweight before he then goes to middleweight? I think he's in a position where if you can get that fight now, which sounds like it'll be overseas again, perhaps in Vegas, I would suspect, then that says to me that basically he needs to take that. I think knowing what Tim's like, he keeps talking about no easy fights, about going the hardest path, walking the hardest path. To me, it would make sense to take Fundora next, because if you can get the opportunity, he can, rewrite the wrongs. He can win 2 belts. He's then in a bargaining position should he want to take on Buckram. Now, there's some people out there who think that, leave Buckram alone forever. I don't think so. I think he'd want, knowing Tim, from what I know of him minimally, avenge that loss as well. And then I think is it the WBA belt that's got interim status on it with Crawford champion in recess or whatever the story is. So excuse me. But finally the voice the next day is the time where we're at this position. No, so I think that's just me. It's my opinion. That's only my opinion. Love to hear what the punters think. I think I'd love to hear what everybody in the comments would love to say about this. But in my opinion, seize the opportunity if you can get it. So what I mean by that is it may not be possible. He may need to fight Keith Thurman again. But I feel like they can promote the Fundora rematch. I think, in listening to some of the comments of his team yesterday, they need a little bit more time for Fundora. Last time was 8 days. I think they'd be looking at, 4 to 5 months this time for stylistic changes, for conditioning. But I would take Fundora. I think Keith Thurman's a dangerous fight. I think if he boxes smart, he probably beats Keith Thurman. But we did see that Keith Thurman, he's a similar body size, a similar reach, it feels like. He's quite springy in his movements. He's got, a beautiful left hook that we saw versus Brock Jarvis, his beautiful movement when he comes on the outside. So for me, I feel like it's a tricky one. I think I would fight Fundora, but that's just me at the end of the day. I mean, I think that's the fight. If you can get the opportunity, it'd be a nice junket for you, Macca, to go back over to Vegas, mate, which will be well deserved for you. A fantastic opportunity, but he's got to take it, because in life things can change very quickly. Yeah, he could fight Keith Thurman and lose. He could fight Keith Thurman and win, but break a hand and get injured, and then that puts him off. Fundora could break an arm and be out for 12 months. Fundora could get a cut. Anything's possible. So in life, take the shortest path forward that you can and take Fundora.
Now, talk to us about the atmosphere in there last night, and also, mate, we've noticed a little bit of a stylistic change up from yourself. Very classy in there at the moment.
Thank you, mate. Yes, look, the energy, part one of your question, the energy was unbelievable. Newcastle is a fantastic venue. You're a Nova Castrian from this area. It is a fantastic place here. The Hunter region loves their footy. They love their boxing. It was beautiful. I've done a couple of fights here before, so this was the third time for me in Newcastle, and it was incredible. It was just the noise, the volume, getting the crowd with you sometimes, especially as you come through the undercards, can be difficult. It was not difficult at all. I mean, the hardest fight to get the crowd going yesterday was Nelson and Saavedra, but you had a Dane versus a Venezuelan in Australia. So that one was where it was a little bit, but that was a nice touch in a way to have a bit of an international feel to the card. It was a PBC card on Amazon in America as well. So I thought that was worth it in that context. Maybe didn't resonate with the crowd in Australia as well as it might have. But when it came to, the rest of the fights, Grash Taliva'a, when it came to Tim Tszyu, Macca, it was incredible. It was so easy to do your job. It's a pleasure. So thank you, Newcastle. It's a pleasure to be able to do that job and build them up. And yes, look, a bit of feedback has been just a little bit of a stylistic change to be a little bit more classy, a little bit more Jimmy Lennon-esque, one of the greats, of all time, one of the guys I've looked up to for many years. And I think it's really resonated. We've sort of moved a little bit away from sort of getting in the fighters' faces and I don't know, perhaps UFCing a little bit, Bruce buffering a bit, and just turning it into a little bit more my own style, like a classy style. But it's been really well received, and I think it's really got the crowd going. I think it's a little bit more inoffensive, and it's a little bit more, allowing the crowd to come with the inflections and deflections and join that journey through the whole night and through the whole announce of a main event. So it was fantastic, really, really exciting experience, and mate, I absolutely loved it. So it was fantastic.
And when can we expect to see you back out there again, mate?
Yeah, very soon, mate. Very soon. We've got. I'm off to Saudi Arabia next week for some Asian Champions League stuff with Cristiano Ronaldo and Al Nassr and the teams that are in the last 8 of the Asian Champions League, which will be fantastic. And then we're back into it for Sam Goodman, which will be big. I think that was announced yesterday. Now, May 14. So we'll be doing our thing there, Macca, again, enjoying ourselves. And then we Jai McAllister on the 8th. That'll be huge. You'll be there, no doubt. And then obviously after that, I believe, now this one I don't think is as firm. You would know more than me, being the boxing pundit extraordinaire you are. But June 11, I think, in Cairns was the next touted one. However, I feel like there might be a little bit more to determine with that, noting I think Nikita Tszyu was talked about for that. Liam Paro's probably ready, so I'd say he'd be ready for something in Queensland by about that time. But Nikita Tszyu returning, not so sure. But I think we're in Cairns on June the 11th. So that's the next ones. And then look, I think, what is it? Okay, Tim Tszyu, July the 6th at the moment. But look, that's so far away now. I think there's a lot of water to flow under that bridge before we know. So that's the next 3 big ones, mate. And I look forward to working with you at all those 3.
Nice one. Thank you, Stevie.
Thank you, Macca.